comfort zone.
Sorry, Anthony, I had to hit record.
No worries. But I thought it would be worth introducing myself because I am new. I'm a new employee for the town of East Greenwich, and I'm the new director of public works here. So I have a lot to learn. I have an open slate here, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to meet more people and learn about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. So thank you for having me.
Fabulous, thank you. Who else would like to introduce themselves? Nancy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Latender. I am the town planner in Westerly, and it is my colleague Mike Sarah who is trying to come on in audio, so I'll try to keep him in the loop.
Okay, thank you.
And welcome, Anthony.
Carol.
I'm Carol Wardell. I'm actually the town clerk for Little Compton. But because we're small, there's not often enough bodies to go around to handle everything we need. So my hand got put up for this one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lee.
Oh, hi, everybody. Leah Hitchin, town of Portsmouth, town planner. Just want to say hi to Anthony. That's my old office that he's in.
That's funny. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I really like the color. I picked it out myself.
Thanks.
I love it. Anyone else?
I'm Ron Wolanski. I'm the town planner here in Middletown.
Great. Hello, Ron. I am a Middletown resident coming to you from near St. George's. So.
Excellent.
All right. Anyone else? Catherine.
Yes, Kate Randall. I work for the state of Rhode Island in the pandemic recovery office. Just happy to be here to learn a little bit more about food waste.
Fabulous, fabulous. And we have some people introducing themselves through the chat, so thank you for doing that. All right, let me make one announcement. Actually, I should introduce myself. I'm Jennifer Slattery with the League of Cities and Towns. I am the director of training and membership, and I coordinate this Workshop Wednesday program. So be on the lookout for more invitations from me on various different topics weekly. But we're happy to host all of you today, and certainly happy to host our friends from the Food Policy Council, Nessa Richmond and Max DeFeria. So what I'm going to do today is invite Max to share the screen. I understand that they have the screen sharing responsibilities today. And then Nessa, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the Food Policy Council, and whether you want to introduce Max now or later, however you would like to go about this. I think we're a small enough group where if there are timely questions in the content where you need some clarification, I would invite folks to just put up your hand via the reactions section of Zoom if you can, or take yourself off of mute and ask the question. Otherwise, we can hold questions for the end or put them in the chat and I can monitor that for you. So let's turn it over to Nessa.
Thanks, Jennifer. We are really excited to be here with you all today and appreciate the opportunity, as well as every one of you deciding to spend time with us learning about planning accessible, equitable, and resilient municipal food systems today. I'm the network director of the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. We also on the call have Max DeFaria, who is the Senior Program Associate for Food Access and Nutrition Security, and our Communications Manager, Allison Montagnan. So we're very happy to be here with you. I am not going to be able to see when you raise your hands, and Max might not either. So Jennifer, I would appreciate it if you would just, anytime there's a question, we're happy to be interrupted. And also the presentation is not going to last a whole hour, so we'd love to come off screen afterward and engage in conversation with you all as well, as much as you have time and interest to do so. So first, I just want to say that this is a presentation that's very much geared towards staff of our state, cities, and towns. We're very excited to take questions from you all after the call today. And Max, you can go forward to the next slide. So what we're going to do today is introduce the Rhode Island Food Policy Council, talk a little bit about what a food system actually is. We're going to introduce our new municipal resources, share a case study with you of how one municipality is using these resources, and then again, have plenty of time for questions and answers. You can advance, Max. So the Rhode Island Food Policy Council is an independent nonprofit network of food system stakeholders across the state of Rhode Island. And our mission is to promote an equitable, accessible, economically vibrant, and environmentally sustainable food system for all Rhode Islanders. We do this in 3 main buckets of work: partnerships, projects, and policy. So our partnerships are with community-based organizations, industry members, nonprofit leaders, state agencies, elected officials, concerned citizens. We basically have an open policy where anyone can join the network and be an active participant. So out of those partnerships, gaps are identified and needs are identified. And when there isn't any other entity to fill those gaps, the council will perform projects, pilots, and programs. And over the course of the last 5 years or so, this has included food access programs, especially at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, business support programs, which are still ongoing today, educational programming, both to raise capacity for adult participants in our network and to support youth education for the next generation of food system professionals. And we also provide fundraising assistance, both with federal grant writing and with private foundation connections. And then I'll say from the partnerships and the projects, obviously sometimes issues arise that need a policy change or a regulatory change. So that's the other part of what we do. We will advocate for the passage of laws and resolutions. We will help with development of emergency feeding plans and land use plans, and also provide guidance to public agency decision makers and elected officials about prioritizing public expenditures. So we have work groups that focus on different policy areas, and these include food justice, our food economy, food access, food environment and climate, and others. In fact, we have one related to the federal farm bill right now. So those are flexible to the needs of the time, although we do always have work groups that are focused on these kind of big issues that relate to the triple bottom line of economy, access, and environment. So you can go ahead to the next slide. So I want to note that the council pays attention to the entire food system. What does this mean? We see the system as having an inner circle and an outer circle. The inner circle is really akin to a food marketing chain. So it starts with food production up at the top, then processing, distribution, retail of all different types, whether that is a full service superstore or a locally owned bodega or a farmer's market, consumption, which of course includes food access, and then also the management of food waste. I know that you had a recent Wednesday seminar about food waste and composting, and so that's a piece of what we do in this overall work around the food system. And then there are also pieces that touch all of those inner parts, all of that marketing chain. Everyone needs clean air, healthy soil, access to land and to capital, and a supportive policy environment. So you can advance to the next slide. I just want to talk a little bit about the stakeholders within each of the parts of that system that we just introduced. So we have caretakers of the land and water. This includes our farmers and our fishers and our natural resource workers, land trusts, environmental activists, our indigenous communities. And our food producers, in addition to farmers and fishers, also includes farm workers and others who work on the land and in the sea, in both urban and rural settings, people who cultivate the food. Our food processors and entrepreneurs include both those kind of cottage food enterprises and second stage food manufacturers who are ready to launch into bigger facilities and bigger markets. And many of them create value added food products from our locally grown food. Our distributors are tasked with packaging and shipping food. These are the truckers, the pilots, the warehouse workers, And they work in organizations, international, national, and local. Our local food hub is one of these entities called Farm Fresh Rhode Island. Also, moving on, you have food retailers and restaurants. This is one of the biggest employer categories within our food system because it includes the full service superstores, the grocery stores, the corner stores and delis. And we also have our free and low cost food providers, our food banks, food pantries, our congregate meal sites, and everyone else who's providing food for free or for a reduced price. I'm sure many of you have churches in your communities that are low cost or free food providers. Then you also have institutional buyers. These are our universities, our schools, the prison system, our hospitals, and anyone who's doing state dining facilities in any way. Consumers, we all fit into this category. I would assume we all eat food in the state of Rhode Island, and our food waste facilities round out this kind of overview of who in the Rhode Island food system is a stakeholder. The waste facilities, which some of you heard a little bit about on a past Wednesday seminar, include our on-farm composters, as well as composting organizations that aren't on farms, including our anaerobic digesters. So as you can see, we are all Rhode Island food system stakeholders, and there are an awful lot of people who are engaged in the food system as stakeholders in different ways. And now that we've kind of talked through that in a narrative way, and you've seen how big and important the state's food system is, and also how it maybe is failing some of our most vulnerable citizens, we want to talk about what you can do about it at the municipal level. We want to talk about how systems thinking can help our food system and how we can put together policies that produce better access to whole, healthy food and better health. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of data. I know not everyone loves to look at charts. I do personally, but I'm aware that not everyone does. And then I'll hand it over to Max to really dig into our city and town resources. So this is a picture of total Rhode Island food system sales. You can see that our food system encompasses all of the people, resources, and processes involved in moving food from the farm and ocean to the plate. We did a regional analysis prepared for a group called New England Feeding New England that did this for every state in our 6-state region, and it estimated the value of sales for agriculture and fisheries, food and beverage manufacturing, distribution, stores, and food service and drinking places for all of the states. For Rhode Island, the number that came up for us was that our food system generated about $12 billion in sales, and this was in 2017. This is equal to a little bit more than 6% of the regional total of sales of 190 billion. So in 2017, you can see that wholesaling, which again includes all types of food distribution, was the biggest generator of sales, and that was followed by stores and restaurants. Moving on to the next slide, you can get a sense of total food system employment. So this is total employment in the dark blue, and then the light blue is our food system employment. Food service and drinking places, restaurants and bars generated about $3 billion in sales and took a lot of these jobs. Supermarket sales and jobs make up a lot of the rest. There are a lot of other jobs, as we talked about. This is how you can see how those jobs in aggregate make up an important part of our employment in the state. So moving on to the next slide, we want to give you a sense of the environmental impact of our state's food system. So as I'm sure you all know, the 2021 Act on Climate set greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets of 10% below 1990 levels by 2020, 45% of 1990 levels by 2030, and 80% by 2040, with net zero by 2050. The Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management created these numbers. These are the estimates of greenhouse gas emissions by economic sector, and we put them into this hopefully easy to read chart. What I will say is that food system emissions are spread across these different categories, so they're kind of missed. They're kind of invisible within this unless you kind of think about it and pull them out. They're embedded in transportation emissions. They're from food delivery. They're embedded in electricity consumption and refrigerant emissions from grocery stores and storehouses. And so what you see as kind of an agriculture piece, which is almost invisible in this chart, is just a really small part of our overall greenhouse gas emissions. If you look at the food system's greenhouse gas emissions in a holistic way, and apply the estimate that 25% of US greenhouse gas emissions are generated by food system activities, this yields a result of over 3 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent in Rhode Island, which is a much higher value than the estimate for just the agricultural piece. And finally, my last data slide here is our Rhode Island total food insecurity percentage. So we had an average of 12% of Rhode Island's households food insecure over the past 20 years. That's 35,000 households. We had an average of 8% of food insecure households, actually very low food insecure households. And that is defined as an experience of reduced quality, variety, or desirability of diet. And 4% with very low food security, which is defined as an experience of multiple indicators of disrupted eating patterns and reduced food intake. So you can see here with the gray strip that's on the left that food insecurity increased in Rhode Island as a result of the Great Recession and decreased slowly over the course of a number of years. When you look at the far right of the chart, you can see that even during the COVID pandemic, when we know that there was an increase in food insecurity, that we had, it doesn't show on the chart. And the reason is because there was a major increase in safety net resources at the federal level, the state level, and the town level as well, that buffered the overall impact of the pandemic on food security. However, this only goes up to 2022, and I'm sure you know that many of those increases in safety net resources have gone away now, some as of March, some as of April even, and some data sources are now, unsurprisingly, showing an increase in food insecurity in later 2022 and 2023 as some of those COVID-19 safety net resources are no longer in place. So again, hopefully what we've been able to do now is show you how big and important the state's food system is, how it is failing some of our most vulnerable citizens. And now we want to talk with you about municipal level data, and then maybe have a conversation about what can be done to improve our food systems at the municipal level. So with that, I am happy to hand it over to Max de Faria to bring you forward into the Rhode Island Municipal Food Systems action information.
Thank you so much, Nessa. Hi, everyone. As Nessa shared, I am Max de Faria. I use they, them, their pronouns, and I am the Senior Food Access and Nutrition Security Program Associate with the Food Policy Council. And so today I'm going to be introducing our newly revised and updated fact sheets, along with some really great new collateral that we've created due to actually responses we were hearing from municipal leaders such as yourself around what would best serve you in making these pieces of information the most accessible. So now that you all sort of have a background in how big and important the state's food system is, let's talk about what you can do at the municipal level to address that. So firstly, I want to allow you all to get out your own town's fact sheets if you're interested. So you can see here on the slide the steps to go about doing that. So first you would want to go to rifoodcouncil.org, and on our home page on the top of the page there will be a resources tab. Once you click that tab, you want to click Municipal Fact Sheets page, which comes out underneath the tab, and then you can scroll down to pick the title of your town. And from there, you'll be able to see your town's fact sheet as we talk through the different aspects of the fact sheets and some of the really awesome information we have now. And if you have any questions about how to access that, feel free to throw them in the chat, and Allie, our communications manager, can definitely help you work through any difficulties you have. So these are our new fact sheets, and we're going to be using North Kingstown as our case study later, so I felt it would be a great town to show as an example here of this data. So as you can see, these are newly revised for 2023. It includes our previous data points as well, in addition to a new GIS map that we'll be talking about in a couple of moments. So in addition to the GIS map, we also have 3 broad buckets of data categories that can be useful to you all as municipal planners, public works departments, and leaders. First, we have the food economy, then we have land use and sustainability, and finally ending with food access and security. So let's dive into each of these pieces a little bit more in depth. So firstly, we have these awesome town-specific GIS maps. These maps, the images come from the US Geological Survey and their land cover maps. So those were most recently updated in 2019. So this is the most accurate imaging of your town that is available at the moment. And as you can see here, we tried to make these as usable as possible. So we broke down, thousands of categories that they have into 5 overarching buckets that can really help municipal leaders understand where opportunities and challenges may lie for your municipality. So first we have in red developed land. This may also include these light pinks, as you can see up in the top, which just means that it's slightly less developed. The darker the red, the more developed that area is. We have dark green, such as down here in North Kingstown, that represents forestry. So those are where major forests lie. We have light green, such as up here, which is where agriculture exists. And then we have a light and a dark blue for different types of water, and then yellow and brown for other types of land. Other types of land would include, for example, shoreline, vegetatively barren land, for whatever reason that may be. So that sort of encompasses a broad range of other land types, which are useful to know, but maybe not as relevant to your food system. So each town has one of these maps, and you'd be able to look at this and use this when thinking through different questions you may have around your municipality and how to plan best, not only for your food system, but to ensure green space and resiliency in the face of climate change. So in addition to the maps, we then have our 3 data sections, the first being food economy. So as you can see here, our food economy section includes 7 metrics: restaurants, farmers markets, food markets, which broadly includes supermarkets, bodegas, convenience stores. If they sell food, they're there. And you can also find all of our methodology on our website on the same webpage where the fact sheets are. So if you do have questions about that, feel free to check out our methodology page. Additionally, we have SNAP dollars spent at farmers markets, food processors, distributors, and the annual municipal fee to landfill residential food waste. And all of these metrics for every town is set up to be comparable to state metrics. So each city has its data, and then we have the state's overall. And this was an item that many of the municipal leaders we spoke to were specifically requested in order to understand how their towns are measuring up to what the state is experiencing overall in these areas. So this is our data related to food economy. Then we have data related to land use and sustainability. So this includes aquaculture farms, commercial fisheries, farms, the annual tonnage of residential food waste, the number of food waste recycling facilities in your town, and whether or not your public school district purchases locally grown food. And again, this data is available in comparison to the state data as well. And then finally, each fact sheet also has information on food access and nutrition security in their town. So this includes data on congregate meal sites, food pantries, home delivery for Meals on Wheels recipients, SNAP participants, students enrolled in free and reduced lunch, and WIC participants. So in addition to these fact sheets, we heard from a lot of municipal leaders that you all would really appreciate having a quick action guide that can dive into some of these topics and tell you some ideas of next steps on where to go with these. So we created our quick action sheet, which you can see here, which includes 4 top line recommendations for each city and town. So we'll dive into each of those a little bit more in detail. The first is develop a municipal food systems plan. As many of you know, all towns have to have their comprehensive plans. Few towns, however, actively include food systems in those plans or have developed their own food systems plans outside of those comprehensive plans. And the best way to understand whether or not you're reaching the goals you have for your local food system is to set out those goals and have a plan that you can refer back to. And so this is our top line recommendation for every town, is to use this data to inform a food systems plan that can ensure just, sustainable, and accessible and resilient food systems locally. Plans like this should include, at least areas of food production and manufacturing, businesses, food access and security, waste diversion, land use, and climate change resilience. And then in addition to having that plan, we have 3 sector-specific recommendations. So the first is to build the food economy. The second is planning a sustainable municipality. And third is improving food access and security. So as you can see, each of these recommendations lines up with the data that we have available on our fact sheets. And so different departments, based off of what your focus is on, can turn to each section of this fact sheet, of this action sheet, to see examples or ideas that are specific to that sector to strengthen and ensure resiliency in your food system. And then in addition to creating this quick action sheet, we've also developed a toolkit. This toolkit provides a lot of super useful information and is divided into 4 sections as well. So as you can see here, these 4 sections align with the recommendations on our quick action sheet. So we try to make it as easy as possible, colors included, everything's color coded, so you can really figure out what you need and get to it quickly. We also start off with a little bit of an introduction in this toolkit to ensure that anyone who's looking at it from the municipal offices has at least a basic understanding of what a food system is and other materials. So in that introduction section, as I was just speaking about, we do explain what a food system is, which Nessa did just a little while ago. We also talk about goals for Rhode Island's food system based off of our Relish Rhody plan, which was first developed in 2017 and is currently undergoing an updating process for Relish Rhody 2.0. And then finally, we end this introduction section with some information on what makes for a just, resilient, and sustainable food system as recognized by both the United Nations and USDA, as well as the really incredible and impactful role that municipal governments play in food systems. So everyone can sort of have an idea of what is it that municipal governments have impact on and how you can leverage that to create the change your community needs. So in addition to this introduction, each section is also set up the same, which I've outlined here for developing a municipal food systems plan. So each section starts off with providing a little bit of an introduction into that topic, whether it's a food systems plan, what the food economy is, what sustainability may look like in the food system, or understanding the differences between food security and food justice. Then each section goes on to include a list of key questions. These key questions can be used by municipal leaders to analyze current ordinances, review current policies and laws, review how your zoning practices currently work, and to evaluate those in the context of what your goals are for your local food system, whether that's to grow resiliency, improve justice, or ensure sustainability going forward, or hopefully all 3. Then we have resources. These resources include top line 4 or 5 resources that can be useful to dive further into these topics for municipal leaders. So as you start developing, your food systems plan or working on different sector specific projects, you can use these resources to provide additional information, recommendations, and tips on how to strengthen the plans that you have in mind. And then finally, each section ends with a municipal models. So each of the municipal models includes both an urban and a rural example of how municipalities around the country are doing exactly what our recommendations include. For example, in developing a municipal food systems plan, we have both an urban and a rural example of how 2 different cities in the United States have done just that and what that has looked like for them, whether that was a part of their comprehensive plan or something they developed separately. And so our following 3 sections, including building the food economy, planning a sustainable municipality, and improving food justice and food access, are all following this exact format. The only difference is that the other 3 sections, economy, sustainability, and food access, also include information on grants that municipal governments are eligible for, that they would be able to tap into to work on these 3 topic areas. And finally, to wrap up our discussion of these materials, I want to provide you with a little bit of a case study of one town that's using them already. So North Kingstown reached out to us a few weeks ago, and we've been able to provide them with some support. Their Economic Development Advisory Board serves an advisory role to their town planners with setting long-term economic goals and reviewing progress on those goals. And so the Economic Development Advisory Board reached out to us for our newly updated fact sheets, which we were able to share with them. And the reason why they were looking for that is because they want to review progress on the town's long-term economic goals, specifically in the sectors of farms, commercial fishers, and food processors. And so what they've done, because they had been working on these long-term goals for a while now, they've actually saved all of their fact sheets from previous years. And now they're conducting some analysis, reviewing how their food sectors have changed since 2015. So they're understanding those changes, identifying opportunities for more growth, and evaluating how their policies and zoning practices are either serving as opportunities or potential barriers to that economic growth that they're hoping to see, as well as analyzing their farming sector's impact to the state overall. They're very interested in understanding how they line up to the state, which our new versions allow for a very easy analysis of. And finally, the Economic Development Advisory Board is using all of this data that we've been able to provide with them, that they've been able to also analyze, to set new long-term economic goals. And so these will be around areas of farms and fishers and other topics that are relevant to their food systems economy that they want to be building up, as well as thinking through how they want to be ensuring climate resilience and access in the process. And so with that, I am going to open us up for any questions.
Thank you so much, Max. Why don't you go ahead and take the slides off the screen? And I know we had one question come in that was regarding just, can we see some examples, right? And some resources related specifically to the development of a municipal food systems plan. So I did pull up that page of the toolkit. And I just want to note that both the action sheet and the toolkit are downloadable on the same webpage. I put the link in the chat for everyone. And so I can go ahead and share my screen just for a minute to share those resources, because I'm sure folks other than Nancy are interested in getting a little sneak peek into the toolkit. So can you all see my screen now? Okay, great. So this is page 8. I skipped down to page 8 of the toolkit, which is the longer piece that Max just reviewed. And you can see here we have some specific resources, toolkits and guides for the development of a municipal food systems plan. So we have here a number of different, we know that this isn't one size fits all. So there are a lot of these types of resources, and we went through and thought about what might be most useful for Rhode Island cities and towns. So you have here a document called Planning to Eat, Innovative Local Government Plans and Policies to Build Healthy Food Systems in the U.S. You have Food System Resilience, a planning guide for local governments that has 12 tools for municipalities. You have an American Planning Association guide on community and regional food planning. And you have a Chicago Metropolitan document called Municipal Strategies to Support Local Food Systems, including local food and comprehensive plans and urban agriculture ordinances. And if you scroll to the next page, you'll see a couple of models here of municipalities that have put together plans, and Max did a great job of picking one for a city and one for a rural area. So we have Design Lansing, the capital of Michigan, which adopted its first comprehensive plan that explicitly included food in 2012 called Design Lansing. And then you have the Woodstock, Vermont comprehensive plan from 2014, which included preservation of farmland, encouragement of land stewardship, as well as preventing obesity through farm to school programs. So I hope that, what we've done here is curate some information inside the toolkit that will support you in thinking about how you might go forward in developing a municipal food systems plan. And there's a reason that this is first on the action sheet and first in the toolkit, because if you haven't done this, especially if you're already in the process of creating your comprehensive plan, it's just an awesome opportunity to be explicit about the food system within that plan, and call it out as a part of your economy, as a part of the culture of your community, to want to make sure that everybody is fed, and as a part of your response to climate resilience. So that's the only question that I saw in the chat. I don't know, Jennifer, if you had other questions, but we're happy to try and answer anything else. So Max, Deborah has a question in the chat.
Awesome. So Deborah says, I noticed that the information for Barrington, Bristol, is the same. So I can explain a little bit about our data and how we collected that data. So we do know, let me start off with, so unfortunately, with a lot of this data, it is incomplete, and we do know that. Unfortunately, there is not a lot of data available at the municipal level, and so we are collecting as much data as we possibly can to represent what's happening in the food system. So some of that data will be the same across nearby communities, just because there simply isn't enough data to be able to distinguish between different municipalities. So not looking at the exact spreadsheet that you're looking at, or not looking at the exact data points that you're looking at, I can't go into detail as to why those may be exactly the same, but a lot of that data did come from state agencies or state-based organizations that could provide that data at a municipal level. So as I said, we definitely would love any revisions if folks have information on, additional data points that we didn't know about or didn't have access to. But as of right now, these are the most accurate and current data points that are available for the municipal level.
And I put a note in the chat as
Oh, Nessa, you're on mute.
I also want to note that I put that the methodology report for the municipal fact sheets is available. It's on the same webpage just below the map of Rhode Island. Nancy, you have your hand up.
Yes, I noticed the same thing that Deborah did, and in comparing the fact sheets for communities throughout the state, they are all identical. So I think if you used a spreadsheet to generate these tables for the presentation, I think there might be something wrong with that. I can't imagine that Westerly, and West Greenwich in Bristol have exactly the same information. So I'm not quite sure where you're at there.
Actually, Max, it's correct. Actually, that's a result of the work of a designer. So you have to get back in touch with the designer. We have all the correct numbers, but what you're looking at right now is a result of the designer loading. She's been loading new revisions in on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that. But I would say, Allie, why don't you get in touch with Carrie immediately and make sure that she corrects that as soon as possible. And then Jennifer, we will let you all know when the sheets are updated. So don't worry, we have all the correct numbers. This is just a result of a design error.
That's exactly what I thought it might be.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for that indeed.
I see Nate is requesting clarification on farmers markets versus food markets in the fact sheets and what the difference is there.
Yeah, so I can explain that briefly. And this information is also available in our methodology sheet. So should you have questions like this later on your own time, feel free to refer to that, and that can provide you with some more in-depth information about the definitions and how different aspects of the fact sheets work out. So farmers markets are specifically markets where all farmers or where vendors come, as well as some on-farm sales. The food markets then generally encompass essentially everything else that's not a restaurant. So those include your superstores, your grocery stores, your convenience stores, your bodegas, the 7-Eleven down your street. All of those, if they sell food, are also included in the food markets. So food markets is more broad, and farmers markets look specifically at farm to consumer sales.
Awesome. Okay.
So thanks for that. But looking at the fact sheets, it says that, so sorry, Nate Bailey, I'm calling from Pawtucket, and it says that there's no farmers markets in the town when there is, or I
So
don't know
that's
if it's a distinction of like something called a farmer's market being different from a defined farmer's market.
So that's because of the design issue that we just found out about. They didn't update to include the accurate number for Pawtucket. So when we get those numbers reloaded, we're going to reach out to everybody on the call and let you know that they have been fixed. But I do know for a fact Pawtucket's data does include farmers markets. I'm from Pawtucket myself, so I knew how many farmers markets we had and were able to double check those. So that is just an unfortunate misprint at the moment. But as soon as those fact sheets get fixed, we'll be able to go ahead and let everybody on the call know, and you'll be able to access those and be able to use those.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Nancy, did you have another question, or did we just not put down your hand? Okay, very good. Any other questions? If not, I do have an announcement as well before we start heading out. I just want to announce on behalf of the Barrington Farm School, which is located at 100 Federal Road in Barrington. They have a composting, non-till composting area, and they have just in the last year composted more than 50,900 pounds of food scraps, not meat. And they are actually looking for more food scraps. So if anybody would be interested in actually taking their scraps there, I can give you a name and some information. If you bear with me for one moment, I can get the email of, so yes, it's just barringtonfarmschool@gmail.com if you'd like to contact them and bring any food scraps that you might be collecting in your municipality. Vernon has a question. Hi, Vernon.
Hello. Not really a question, just like something that I like to keep in mind is that
Sure.
the state has committed to zero emissions by the year 2050.
Mhm.
So that's just something I like to keep in mind and like keep that in the front of my mind in all the work that I do.
Yep, that's a great thing to it'll take some planning, right? So that planning needs to probably start years ago, but we can do what we can do from today forward. And certainly the food policy piece of this is important. Deborah has one more question. Is there anything each municipality can do now to keep the numbers updated?
Yeah, I can take that one. So, as I mentioned, the Rhode Island Food Policy Council is a nonprofit organization. So we were able to raise funds to do this major update of the fact sheets this year. We had a period of time when we were doing it annually, and the numbers didn't really change that much on an annual basis. So we decided that we might not need to change the numbers annually. And then during COVID, we weren't able to really, like the data wasn't being collected in the same way, and the farmers markets were shut down. So it didn't really feel like it made sense until now to do an update. And, we will keep the information updated, but based on our prior experience of doing an update and putting all the effort and work into that on an annual basis and not really seeing significant changes, we may do it on a biannual basis going forward.
Sure, that makes sense.
And also, if anybody loves reading methodology reports and you have suggestions about revisions to the methodology or want to participate in correcting any numbers on your pages after we get the right numbers up there, then we are very open to engaging with you and improving, these products and resources. We want them to be used. We don't want them to sit on a shelf. So this is the first time that the action sheet and the toolkit have been presented. And while we don't have internal capacity to work in depth with every single city and town, we certainly do want to be supportive, especially of the towns that actually, want to bring this on as a priority. We do projects and programs where there are gaps. And if there's a gap in capacity or understanding or information at your municipal level, and you really want to move forward with a municipal food systems plan, then please do reach out to us. I think you have all of our information, and Jennifer, when we send out the slides to folks, the last slide actually has our direct contact information, but I think we can put our emails in the chat as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, if there's no further questions, I will just close out by thanking Nessa and Max and Allison as well for being here today. And we will make sure to get all of you folks the newest and latest and greatest data when it is available. And it looks like, oh, one more thing, lots of thank yous, and the information is super helpful. So feedback in real time. And thank you. The info it's info@rifoodcouncil.org. Should any of you wish to get in touch immediately. So on behalf of the League, thank you so much for joining us today. And we will see you again for another workshop Wednesday soon. That information is always available on our website on the different topics we have at rileague.org. So again, thank you, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks, guys.